His Excellency Jamal Al-Suwaidi, UAE Ambassador to Singapore, Dr. Brian Shigar, President of the UAE Singapore Business Council, Mr. Ruben Lim, CEO of the Singapore FinTech Association. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Najat. I'm the head of the UAE Singapore Business Council Secretariat, and I'll be your MC for this afternoon. Thank you for joining our FinTech webinar entitled Introduction to the UAE Market, jointly organized by the Singapore FinTech Association and the Singapore Business Council. During this webinar, we will first hear from experts from the Abu Dhabi Global Markets and Dubai International Financial Center, two of the largest free zones and financial hubs in the UAE, who will showcase the exciting ecosystems that they've built. Then I will give you a preview of the itinerary planned for an exciting business mission to the UAE in September, followed by a panel discussion featuring Mr. Prakash Somasundram, CEO and founder of Engine Starter, and Mr. Jackal Ma, Chairman and of Trust Decision, both of whom are members of SFA. The discussion will be moderated by Dr. Brian Shigar, President of the UAE SBC. Lastly, we'll open the floor for a Q&A for all your burning questions to be answered. And I will now invite Ruben for his welcoming remarks, followed by His Excellency for his opening remarks, and then Dr. Brian to share more about the UAE SBC. Ruben, over to you.
Thank you very much, Najat. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and also good morning to our friends from, or maybe just touch noon. Good afternoon to our friends from UAE. My name is Ruben from Singapore FinTech Association. And before I start, I just want to really give a very big appreciation and acknowledgement to His Excellency, Ambassador of UAE, to our friends from DIFC, as well as ADGM, as well as our esteemed panelists for joining us today. Guys, I just want to keep this very short and very to the point. Expansion is paramount, and I'm very sure that all our FinTech community holds that very, very dear to their hearts. I just want to further re-emphasize one stat that comes out very strongly in a survey that SFA conducted 2 years ago. 100% of our survey respondents, 100%, and that's referring to more than 100 respondents as well, have their business outside Singapore. So I think in that respect, expansion is inevitable, and I am very sure that all our community is always constantly looking out to expand their business, because Singapore is a small market, but yet Singapore is a very good place to be a hub. And that in that respect, looking towards Middle East, I would say it's almost a natural path of progression after looking at certain markets like Southeast Asia and probably other likes of maybe UK, Europe, or even some may even look at US. But I think Middle East is really a very important market, a big growing market that everyone should look at. And then if you look at it, if we are referring to Middle East, it's inevitable that it's eminent that in fact we should be looking at UAE. And that's why it gives us a lot of excitement at this moment, to not just only try to put up together a delegation to UAE, but also to host this webinar so that we can also give everyone a flavor, give everyone a very quick insight as to what this market really entails for you. And on top of that, is also to answer any of the questions that you may have, so that you are better prepared as you embark on this journey with us in September to UAE. And I think from the sign, and I think one thing I want to call out is that looking at the strong support that we get from our panelists and the program for today, I think to our community, you can be assured that you are in safe hands with a very strong organization and support from UAE Singapore Business Council. You are almost very much assured that your trip will be very fruitful in September. So once again, thank you very much, and I do hope to look forward to seeing all your questions. Ask as many as you can, so that you are prepared and know what to get yourself ready for, so that this trip will be as fruitful as possible for your business. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben. May I kindly invite His Excellency Jamal Al-Suwaidi to share his opening remarks? Your Excellency, please.
Thank you very much, Najat, and good afternoon to all of you. It's my pleasure to welcome you here today on this webinar, which is co-organized by the Singapore FinTech Association and the UAE Singapore Business Council. Such events actually are a testament of the collaboration and the innovation between our two nations, and particularly in a rapid evolving FinTech sector. We have excellent relations between Singapore and the UAE, and are characterized by the shared common values and the vision toward the future. Both countries have demonstrated a commitment to fostering dynamic business environment that encourage innovation and support entrepreneurship and embrace digital transformation. It is within this context that today's webinar assumes great significance. The UAE has been a long forefront in the FinTech innovation in the Middle East. Our financial hubs, such as the Dubai International Financial Center, short as DIFC, and Abu Dhabi Global Market, ADGM, have been established themselves as leading ecosystems in the FinTech for FinTech companies, offering robust regulatory frameworks, state-of-art infrastructure, and a vibrant community of innovators and investors. And today we have the representatives from the IFC and ADGM to share their insights and experiences. Please do engage with them, with our speakers, to explore opportunities ahead. Once again, I'd like to thank you all for joining this webinar, and I look for a fruitful discussion. Thank you, Najat.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I will now invite Dr. Brian of the UAE SBC to share more about the Council. Dr. Brian, please.
Thank you, Naja, for your introduction. His Excellency, Jamal Al-Suwaidi, UAE Ambassador to Singapore, Ruben Lim, CEO of SFA, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to this workshop on FinTech opportunities in the UAE with a specific purpose of following this up with this delegation that we are working with SFA on, to which Ruben has already alluded to. Before I tell you more about the UAE SBC, I want to record my special thanks to His Excellency for taking time off his very busy schedule in being with us, and he has always been a constant source of support and encouragement for all our trade delegations and our activities per se. I also want to thank Ruben. Ruben, it's been a pleasure working with you and your team. I'm highly impressed by your dedication, efficiency, and the manner in which you are giving your members this opportunity to look at, as you said yourself, markets beyond Singapore. And I think that's really adding value to your membership. I want to also thank the two presenters. They are both busy people from the UAE who represent two important pillars of the FinTech ecosystem, namely Muhammad Al-Balush, who's from the DIFC, and Khalifa Al-Yusuf from ADGM. Thank you, gentlemen, for participating in this important workshop. And let me now say a few words about the UASBC and what we do. Our origination is important. I want to stress this because people need to know the background. Singapore signed a very momentous FTA with the GCC as a whole. And you can imagine GCC is a grouping of countries, and yet we managed to sign this FTA with them. And at that point, there was an attempt by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to get people from the business community involved in a forum. I was invited. I was then the head of Asia for Emirates NBD, and my role was to see how the business community would benefit from this FTA. And in my speech, I talked about many things, but I made one important point. And the point I made was that you need to have a platform. You need to have a platform that serves as an enabler for B2B connectivity to happen, so that people in Singapore, the business community, can realize that there is this FTA, but there's also a platform that can help them in achieving the aspiration to do more business in that part of the world. Now, I mentioned the GCC is a grouping of countries, but I want to now specifically say within the GCC, the UAE stands out as our most important trading and investment partner. For example, we do more trade with the UAE than the whole of the GCC. We have last year recorded $24 billion of bilateral trade. That's on the trade side. If you look at investments, we have the largest stock of UAE investments in Singapore than any other country in ASEAN. And if you look at Singapore companies, there are more companies from Singapore operating and investing in the UAE than any other country in the GCC. And that signifies the underlying strength of our relationship from an economic and business perspective. On the G2G side, the two countries have excellent relationship and across different dimensions, not just business. In fact, the importance of this relationship was further crystallized when we signed the Singapore UAE Comprehensive Partnership during the visit of then the Crown Prince, now the President of UAE to Singapore in 2019. So we launched the USPC because we felt we have to focus, first of all, in the UAE and make sure we maximize opportunities for Singapore companies in the UAE. And that is our mission. What is our mission? We want to create awareness of the multiple opportunities for business engagement for Singapore companies in the UAE. That's our mission statement. We have in our grouping companies from different sectors. We have, of course, many of the companies in the UAE who are in Singapore. In fact, all of them members. Most of the Singapore companies who are operating in the UAE are members, and many aspiring companies who want to do business in the UAE become members. We are blessed to have two excellent patrons, starting with His Excellency. As I said, His Excellency Jamal has been a constant stalwart source of support for us, and Mr. Lee Shan, who was previously a senior minister of trade and industry, and he was working assiduously when he was the minister to open up the GCC market for Singapore. Now, there are many ways in which we achieve our objective. One way, of course, is when companies come and approach us and say, look, can you help us? We want to do things in the UAE. The other is by working closely with trade associations, chambers of commerce. And our collaboration with SFA is an example of this modus operandi. And what do? We work with the relevant trade association covering a particular sector. We decide we want to organize a workshop to introduce the opportunities for their members in the particular sector which they represent in the UAE. We organize, resulting from that, a business delegation. And I can tell you and I can share with you, inevitably, when we bring a business delegation to the UAE, when they come back, they're all very excited and they want to do something there. They want to set up an office there. And that's when we work with them on a company-to-company basis, bilaterally, to work out a roadmap. Now, I want to say one final thing about the UAE, which is very relevant for you. The UAE is very committed to be a knowledge-based economy. Technology, AI are like, they speak and breathe about this. There's a ministry of AI, for example. And we'll talk about this later on, and you'll learn more during the presentations and during the panel discussion. So FinTech is a very important component of technology in the UAE. Why? Because the UAE is the biggest financial center in the Middle East and becoming more and more one of the most important international financial centers. And I don't have to tell you, FinTech plays a very important role in the area of banking and finance. So I'm delighted to be part of this interesting collaboration with SFA, and I'm looking forward to co-leading with Ruben, the business delegation that we have fixed for the dates that in September, and I hope as many of you will participate and take advantage of this opportunity. Thank you, and back to you, Najat.
Thank you, Dr. Brian, for sharing more about the UAE Singapore Business Council. Now let's kick things off with presentations from two of the largest free zones in the UAE. First, we have with us Dubai International Financial Center's Innovation Hub. The DIFC is home to more than 700 growth stage tech firms, established innovation companies, digital labs, venture capital firms, regulators, and educational entities. The DIFC aims to generate new economic value by fostering innovation, enterprise, and talent across various sectors especially in the future-oriented industries. I would now kindly like to invite Mr. Mohammed Al-Blushi, CEO of DIFC Innovation Hub, to share more about ADGM, followed by a brief Q&A right after. Mr. Al-Mohammed, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I know it's about 4:30 in Singapore. My name is Mohammed Balushi. I run the DIFC's Innovation Hub, which is technically the FinTech hub within the city of Dubai. I do have a few slides for you, so let me try and put up the slides. Najat, if you can confirm when the slides are up, so I can start.
Yeah, I can see your screen, but I just need the slides to be.
Okay, perfect. Can you see the slides now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Before I go into the IFC Innovation Hub, a little bit probably about the IFC. So as mentioned, the IFC is a free zone that was established in the year 2004 with the prime mandate of diversifying Dubai's economy. As you know, we as a city have always pushed as much as we can to diversify our economy and move away from a hydrocarbon-based economy by establishing ourselves as a trade hub in the 80s, and then with the establishment of Fly Emirates as an aviation hub, and of course in the late 90s and early 2000s as a tourist hub as well. But I think early 2000s we saw the opportunity within the region to establish ourselves as a financial hub as well. And again, it is directly related to the GDP growth that we've had over the past 2 decades. At the time, I remember what I hear, the financial services sector used to contribute about 5-6% to Dubai's GDP. Today, that number sits at about 10 to 12%. So over the last 2 decades, the number has doubled in size. Which makes it clear why we saw the opportunity of creating a financial center and positioning Dubai as a financial hub. And so I think the need was very clear, but there were questions about how we do it. And at that time, it was decided that we want to create a financial center which is both independent and international in nature. What I mean by that is the IFC is a jurisdiction that has its own legal and regulatory framework. It is basically a physical and legal carve-out from the UAE mainland system. The UAE mainland is based on civil law and Sharia law, of course, and has its own financial regulator, which is the UAE Central Bank. These independent financial centers, us and ADGM, were created basically to be independent and more international in nature. We practice English common law. So one is, of course, we have our own legal framework. And then what is even more interesting, we have our own regulatory framework. We have our own MAS equivalent, the Dubai Financial Services Authority, the regulator, which regulates everyone that is based within the DIFC. And to make the IFC even more appealing to the international audience and international companies, the DIFC also has its own courts. Again, first time within the Middle East, within the Arabic-speaking world, you have courts that are based on English language and English law, practice English law, made it quite appealing and attractive for global financial institutions, because for top financial institutions, rule of law is very important, and being comfortable with the legal and regulatory framework is extremely important. And I think after creating the common law jurisdiction, the unique regulatory framework, and the court system gave us all the ammunition that we needed to go and talk to a JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs or HSBCs or Barclays, all the top financial institutions, to go and tell them, come to Dubai, where we can give you a jurisdiction that is no different than London, New York, or even Singapore. I think our aim was that we should be able to play the same role that Singapore plays for Far East. How can we make Dubai a hub for the Middle East and North Africa markets? Since our inception, we have grown significantly. Today, we're considered one of the top financial institutions in the region and globally as well. There are about 42,000 people that work in the center day in, day out. There are about 5,000 plus entities, and out of which 800 plus are regulated financial entities. And as mentioned, any name from the top financial institutions that you could think of has their regional headquarters at the DIFC, the top US banks, the top European banks, the top Chinese banks, Singaporean banks, of course. And I think it was about 2015, 2016 when we had achieved enough in the financial services sector. And we started thinking about what can we do when it comes to fintech? How can we position the IFC and of course the city of Dubai as a hub for finance, of a future of finance? And that's where we started thinking about everything that needs to be done around establishing a hub for fintech companies. And I think this is where we went back to the drawing board and we started asking ourselves the question of what an overall ecosystem looks like. And I remember the days where we had to do a lot of convincing and we had to tell people that we cannot be treating fintechs the way, or fintechs and startups the way we treat banks. Operational perspective, the way these guys usually operate out of co-working spaces. So how do we create an environment, an ecosystem for these guys so they can feel at home? In 2017, which soon became the leading FinTech Accelerator program, and actually was our first step towards establishing this FinTech ecosystem. And the regulatory sandbox, we call it the innovation testing license, through which anyone that is providing financial services can actually get into that sandbox and of course become a fully regulated fintech company. And also, I think then we started creating, we brought in the co-working space concept within the DIFC as well. So startups can operate the way they prefer to operate. I think one of the things that we realized very early that funding was a gap within the Middle Eastern markets at that point in time. In 17, 18, the startups didn't used to attract as much funding, and that's where we decided that we will put our own skin into the game, and we ourselves will deploy capital and help infuse capital into the market. So we created our own fintech fund, which now is part of a much larger fund co-led by between us and the Dubai Future Foundation. But the fund is called the Dubai Future District Fund, where we take equity positions in a lot of startups that are based in the DIFC and beyond. So now we are also investors in fintech. And I think, but that was only one part of it. We also saw it's our responsibility to attract other VCs. So we created a lot of incentives and we did a lot of work around attracting global VCs and regional VCs. So there's more capital available for these VCs to be set up. One of the things that we did, we made sure that the operating cost of fintech companies is extremely subsidized, because again, we knew this is extremely different to what we idea and want to disrupt the way a traditional business is done. So they're licensing, they're subsidized by 90%, and that's where we saw a surge. I think 2017 we started, 20 techs that come and set up over here. We also take the ecosystem development very seriously, because I remember when we started with FinTech, our FinTechs used to say that because we're a financial center, and they might feel a bit intimidated amongst the big corporates. So how do we create a space for them that is a bit more relaxed, a bit more young? Uh, uh, so we invested in the physical ecosystem as well. Today we have an ecosystem that spans over more than 300,000 square feet and has about 1,000 startups, and it's a complete ecosystem. So from startups, early stage startups, of course, fintechs, as they are looking to themselves into this ecosystem to kind of leverage the ecosystem and expand. Regional success stories, of course, some of the leading unicorns. Tabi was the first fintech unicorn, is from the region, is based out of the DIFC Innovation Hub, and a lot of VCs are based over here. And we also have corporate labs. One of the things that we try to do is encourage, because access to market is also something that we promise to our startups, that you get access to market. Access to market is connecting them to the right person and the right organization, the right bank, and the right government entity. And we do that through accelerator programs. Of course, we started with one accelerator program. Today we have multiple accelerator programs. But we also push corporates to build ventures out of Dubai, out of the IFC. So a lot of corporates, they have their digital labs with us, where they actually are building ventures or are doing CVC activity from the DIFC. So from our perspective, we constantly look at what else the ecosystem requires for this to be as attractive as possible for global startups, for regional startups. Today, more than 3,000 people work within the DIFC Innovation Hub that are all tech, that are all in the FinTech ecosystem. Again, I think I touched upon on this slide a little bit. Academia is something that we also focus on, because I think when we started doing FinTech, we realized that now we have to create a completely new talent pool within the DIFC. DIFC, of course, is a hub for financial talent, but how do we make it a hub for tech talent as well? And I think, of course, the startups play a huge role when they come and, of course, hire and create jobs. But how do we create programs and courses and training programs and have education institutions plugged into the ecosystem? So that's also a major thing that we do. We run a lot of courses that are on future skills and future talent. We also have education institutions that help us with that. As mentioned, we're doing many things on FinTech. There's continuous work when it comes to regulation and how do we further enhance our regulations. Regulatory framework, of course, sits with our regulator, which is an independent body. But again, as someone who is responsible for the ecosystem, we constantly work with them and engage them to make sure that we can handhold our community members as they're going through this journey. Funding wise, again, we have our own VC, we have other VCs based in the ecosystem that you could leverage. There's many accelerator programs that you could leverage. It has become a talent pool. There's access to corporates and access to government agencies through the Innovation Hub. I think sometime last year, we also started looking at AI. AI was becoming a thing, and we said, okay, what could we do in AI? And there's a lot of overlap. A lot of our traditional financial institutions are looking at AI. Governments are looking at AI. A lot of our fintechs are also, of course, leveraging AI. Hence, we said the ecosystem that we created around fintech will do something similar for AI as well. We actually just launched it probably less than a month ago. We're creating an entire ecosystem for AI startups as well, companies that are in that are focused on AI applications. And this is where we've gone back to the drawing board. We're looking at what else and do AI companies need. Now we're looking at cloud credits and compute power and many other offerings that they would require for them to be able to develop their solutions from here. So again, if anyone is in the AI space, you're looking at collaborating with another AI company, or you're looking at an AI community, again, let us know. I think we're establishing one of the fastest growing AI hubs within Dubai, and there's a lot of activity happening over here. It has an ambitious target. We hope to have about 500 companies by 28. I think already are almost 100 AI companies that have set up shop. I think this slide is also interesting. We do a lot of work when it comes to community development as well. But when it comes to global community engagement, a lot of influence has been taken from Singapore. The Dubai FinTech Summit, if you haven't looked at it, I would encourage you to look at it. We hosted in the month of May. It is a mega event, something similar to Singapore FinTech Festival. And again, the inspiration was taken from Singapore. Where we, of course, invite everyone from the local and regional ecosystem, but also from the global ecosystem. We have startups and companies and regulators from all over the world that travel and of course, attend the summit. It's a 2-day event that takes place at Madinah Jumeirah in Dubai. Then, of course, we have events around sustainability and Web3 and many other things. These are, again, large-scale events. Within the community, there's a lot of activity that happens on a much curated and smaller scale. Again, one of the things that we've realized over the past 6-7 years, that the key or the essence is community development, because you have to give startups something that beyond licensing. They need to see the value of being in that space. So we take that extremely seriously. I think that's it from my side, Najat. I'm not sure if I was very fast, but yeah, happy to answer any questions or however the structure is.
All good. Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed. I think we have a few minutes to get some questions in from the attendees. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask Mohammed, you can put it in the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We have just a few minutes, so any questions would be appreciated. Anything you'd like to ask about DIFC, now is the perfect time. Just a minute or so, and if we don't have any questions, then I will proceed onwards to our next speaker. We have no questions at the moment, so maybe we'll receive a few more at the end of the presentation. Can everyone see my screen? I believe so.
Okay. I think there's a few questions.
Okay, great. Okay, here we go. So we have one question. We are a traditional services company, but looking to strengthen our technology. Where would we fit in? Mr. Mohammed, please.
Yeah, again, I think the DIFC covers all sectors. So if you're a traditional company that wants to plug into the tech ecosystem, that is one of the key reasons we have established ourselves, because the responsibility of helping traditional companies, be it financial services companies or service providers, helping them transform through this digital evolution is our responsibility. That's why we stress a lot on local entities, on international entities, on this digital transformation. So again, you can connect and if there's anything specific, any startup you want to get in touch with, any use case you want to build, we can definitely support.
answer your question. I think there are no more questions for, Ruben, would you like to answer this question too?
No, I think it's all good. I think the question is directed at the ISC and our friend
Okay.
has answered it very, very well.
Okay, no worries about that. I'll move on to our next speaker. Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Next up, we have Abu Dhabi Global Markets, a leading and one of the largest financial centers in the world. ADGM attracts a diverse range of businesses from financial institutions, asset management, FinTech, corporations, and professional services firms. It provides a comprehensive suite of business solutions encompassing various legal business structures, company registration and incorporation, regulatory guidance and oversight, dispute resolution, and access to a vibrant community of like-minded professionals. Presenting on behalf of ADGM today is Mr. Khalifa Al Yusuf, Head of Tech Innovation and Associate Vice President of Business Development. A brief Q&A will follow this presentation. Mr. Khalifa, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Najat. I'll try to just... I think sorry, you guys can hear me?
We can hear you and we can see your screen.
Okay, great. I think the IFC has covered most of the things about Abu Dhabi and Dubai. So I will try to cut it short for you guys. So we in Abu Dhabi and Dubai we share the same initiatives, the same things that both the government is trying to do. So Dubai has started, like I just want to spend some time on telling people what, like the things that we are looking for. Like we have been voted the safest city in the world for the 8th consecutive year. And I'm sure most of the people knows that Abu Dhabi GDP counts for 2/3 of the country in Abu Dhabi. When it comes to ADGM, we started like after the IFC. The IFC is somehow more experienced, and we're still learning from them. So we were established in 2015, and we were the first jurisdiction in the Middle East to apply also the direct application of English common law. We have the 100% foreign ownership. We have the flexibility, the toolbox of structuring solutions, so 0% corporate income tax. And of course, we have the access to the UAE double taxation treaties, which is, we have so many treaties with so many countries in the world, and Singapore is one of them. So till today, the latest numbers, like we have 7,550 registered licenses as of third quarter of 2023. And luckily this year, when we started in 2024, the increase of the asset management was at 200% plus. And I'm sure everybody knows about it from the news. So when it comes to our authorities, we are 4 different authorities. We have the registration authority, we have the financial services authority, the ADGM authority, which looks after all the other authorities, and our own courts. So the registration authority is responsible for everything for all the processes, from the licensing, from the visas, from anything related to clients under licensing. And then we have the Financial Services Authority, which looks after all the financials. And then we have the courts. The courts, we have the first full digital courts worldwide, as well as the arbitration center. And then we have the different sectors, which we can go. We try to separate them in a way to make it easy for people when they come to ask for their license. They know what type of license they are asking for. So we have the traditional finance, the new age finance, which we were just speaking about, the digital asset, digital securities. We introduced the digital foundations, and then the technology, which is the tech innovation license, of course. After that, we have the asset management and the financial finance. So in 2016, we started the Reg Lab. The Reg Lab was a sort of a testing phase. So because we are regulators, but we tried to initiate something for new ideas to come. So they would come into the Reg Lab for some time, get tested for a year or 2 years, and then we try to make our regulations around the ideas that they have. So it was a sort of testing them and then giving them an initial approval at the end, or rejecting them at some point. So we have been trying to be very selective. Unfortunately, 80% of them were rejected, but 20% were accepted at some point. Then we started the innovation license. And in 2018, we started our virtual asset, and then the digital securities. 2022, we started the DeFi and NFTs. And 2023, we just started the DLT foundations, which we are still testing at some point. Then for the crypto assets and the digital securities, we started giving. There was a license that was giving, and the financial activities, virtual asset, digital securities, stable coins, funds, and now everyone is tending to go for the Web3 and the private financing platform. For the non-financial activities, when we started a few years ago, everyone, as Mr. Muhammad said, the innovation side is something that so many people is interested in. So when we first started, the licensing fees were like around $10,300, which doesn't make any sense for the tech startups. So we had to raise it up for the board, and then we did some type of incentivization for these tech startups, and so we had to reduce the fees by 90%. And now the tech innovation license will cost around $1,000. If you guys see the Anghami was one of the first tech innovation licensing that happened in ADGM. And then 2 years ago, they were listed in NASDAQ in the USA, which is something really big for us. And even the bell was, we had a big thing for them, and the bell was rung from ADGM with NASDAQ time in the USA. We have the virtual assets activities, which are regulated, operating the MFTs, custodians, broker dealers, and then we have the non-regulated. So this is the process that happens with the FSRA. We have the team that does the due diligence and discussion. then the submission is happening, then they do the in-principle approval, which means that they are sort type of accepted in ADGM, and then they get the granting of the final approval. This is what this is the innovation license that I was just mentioning. The DLT foundations, which we just started. So now we started a new team, which we call as Sovereign Strategic Partnership. We at ADGM, we try to make it more convenient with our clients. So whenever they come, we try to get them in the full ecosystem. So from the beginning till the end, and whenever they get registered, we make sure that they know we are there for them. So we are trying to make it an eco-friendly system. So this is a new department that we came up with, which is the Sovereign Strategic. Because most of the people most of the clients coming, they need at some point to get to the relationship to sovereign strategics, to fund managers, to investors. So this is what we are trying to do. So whenever you start getting registered in ADGM, it's our responsibility to make sure that you will get before registering and after registering. And we are a client friendly. So we make sure whenever you come back to us, we are still there. So this team is responsible for making all the connections. This is what I was mentioning, that the investor services. So there is all services can be accessed through the Access ADGM. So everything is on the system. Even registering, you don't need to come physically. It's all online. So we're trying our best to make it as easy as possible. Last year, we used to be on this island, which is called Al Maria Island. And luckily, like, we had 4 main towers, because one of the necessities is that you have to have a physical presence in ADGM. And I'll show you the options of having the shared office spaces. But we got to a point of 99% occupancy. So last year, the cabinet issued a resolution which gave us all the Areem Island. So now all Areem Island is under Abu Dhabi Global Market. So now we don't have any difficulties with the office spaces. So these are the shared office spaces, the business centers. We have the micro offices, commercial office spaces. These are some of the big names that we have in ADGM. What we try to do in ADGM is getting the community engagement together all the time. So we have this link ADGM, which we host every month, every end of the month, where we gather all the community, all the registered entities, when we invite them to, like, some of the places and the hotels like Rosewood, Four Seasons, any restaurants that are around, and make sure that they do the engagement together, which gives good opportunity for people looking for business at some point. There is always one of the biggest events that we have in Abu Dhabi. Last year, we hosted Hillary Clinton. Abu Dhabi Finance Week is one of the biggest happenings in Abu Dhabi. This year, we expected around 7,000 people attending, but luckily we had like 18,000. So, and we have 300 of the biggest speakers and 100 sessions and all partners. So it's one of the biggest events that is happening in Abu Dhabi. So this is the ecosystem that we are in as ADGM. In the middle, we have the ADGM Square, the retail, which are the malls, the hotels, education. All schools are just around the healthcare of the Cleveland. And that's all from ADGM. Would be happy to answer anything. Thank you, Najat.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khalifa. Attendees, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them under the Q&A button. We'll give you a couple minutes to do so. If not, we will proceed onwards. Okay, if there are no further questions, we'll proceed with the rest of the webinar. But now that you've heard from our speakers, the UAE SBC and the SFA are excited to announce that we will be embarking on a 5-day business mission to the UAE this September, where delegates will get to meet and visit with ADGM, DIFC, the largest banking institutions in the country, FinTech firms and startups from Singapore and beyond, who have set up in the UAE and can offer insight into their experience in the UAE market. The UAE Singapore Business Council plans to facilitate business missions to the UAE several times a year with various trade associations, so you'll be in safe hands with us and SFA. In the tentative itinerary that I'm going to share in a bit, we have curated a host of meetings with the various financial hubs and entities over the course of 5 days. So we'll begin our delegation in Abu Dhabi, where on day 1, we'll meet with ADGM and the AB Investment Office, FinTech firms, and the Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank. Day 2 consists of a meeting with various banks, Hub 71, and a networking reception in the evening. Day 3, we'll travel to Dubai and spend the day touring and meeting with DIFC. And then on day 4, we'll meet with VARA, which is the Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority, a couple more banks, and a networking reception. And finally, on day 5, we'll meet with a few banks and a consultancy firm specializing in business incorporation, licenses, and permits who can advise our delegates on the process of setting up in the UAE. The costing of the trip per delegate will now be shown on the screen. If you have any questions regarding this, do let us know in the Q&A box to the side, and Gwen and I from SFA will happily address them after the panel discussion. We will also leave a contact us details page at the end, so you can contact us directly. So slots are limited. It's a small delegation that we can have. So register for the business mission by scanning the QR code below or clicking the link. I'll leave this on for a few seconds. Alrighty, and now we will move on to our panel discussion moderated by Dr. Brian Shegar. Joining our panel today is Mr. Prakash Somasundram, CEO and co-founder of Engine Starter, a Web3 launchpad dedicated to advancing the blockchain ecosystem. He also founded Aya Foundation, a climate tech launchpad and fully regulated advisory platform, bringing together the best of Web3 and crowdfunding to bridge climate finance. Aya Foundation has been recognized and selected by the UAE government in the Future 100 initiative, a collaboration between the Ministry of Economy and the Government Development and the Future Office. The program lists and seeks to accelerate leading enterprises in the UAE that make promising contributions to the country's future economic sectors. Our second panelist is Mr. Jackal Ma, Chairman of Trust Decision. Trust Decision is a pioneer in decision intelligence, providing businesses with comprehensive solutions and tools needed to combat fraud, deliver innovative credit risk analytics, and ensure compliance with regulations. Mr. Jackal Ma has an impressive career in tech and as of 2014 is also co-founder and partner of Tongdun Technology. Gentlemen, welcome. I will leave you in the good hands of Dr. Brian to moderate. Dr. Brian, please.
Thank you very much, Najat, for your introduction, and thank you all for the excellent presentations and your level of participation in the discussion. We hope we'll have more Q&A afterwards, after the panel discussion. You've heard from Najat the program, the itinerary. Obviously, we will fine-tune some parts of it as we move forward. All I want to stress to you is what we have arranged for you, in my view, is an excellent introduction to the FinTech ecosystem. You're meeting regulators, you're meeting two of the key pillars, i.e. DIFC, ADGM, and other very important stakeholders, including some of the major banks, as well as some players in the FinTech space, in both the Emirates. So I really hope, as Najat said, you will take advantage of this opportunity and really register, of course, as soon as possible, so that we can compile a list and get things moving. The dates you're aware of. Now, I want to also just make a few sort of general comments about the market. I mean, you've heard from the two presenters. Really, they've given you an excellent presentation of both highly important centers where you can be based out of, and both are very strong in their tremendous strengths in what they offer. And so the uniqueness of the UAE is that you're sometimes spoiled for choice. You have choice of going to ADGM, DIFC, and that's an amazing thing about the UAE as a whole. You have interesting dynamics there. Now, the FinTech sector, I explained to you, is a very important part of the economy, of the financial sector. And technology as a whole is a key aspect of the growth of the economy. And you know, not just the UAE, you're looking at the broader region. And UAE is a gateway to the broader region. In fact, out of all the FinTech companies being set up in the region, half of them, 50% are actually set up in the UAE. And there are various reasons for this growth, and I'll sort of talk about it a little bit before I go into the panel discussion. You look at the evidence is really quite impressive. There are already 4,000 FinTech companies in the country, including 400 startups. And that number is expected to grow, and you can see why it will grow from the amazing incentives and services offered by the two of the key players. It'll grow to 7,000, we expect, by 2028. The size of the FinTech sector, currently about 3.16 billion in 2024, is expected to reach about 6 billion in a few years' time by 2028. Now, if you look at the FinTech sector, so as you can see from the presentation, there's so many parts of it, so many interesting sub-dynamics going on there. But some of the areas that are going to grow in a significant way would include the growth of digital assets, things like cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DeFis. And at the moment, there's about 450 million and expected to grow by 15% next year. Another important aspect is digital payment market. Currently, there are about 2 million people who use these platforms. Transactions of 1 billion, and that's going to grow exponentially. So it's for all these reasons that the UAE has actually been now put in the list of the top 10 most well-funded and developed FinTech hubs. If I can give you just in summary, why is this happening? And maybe it's evident from what you've heard. One, tremendous government support and a conducive regulatory framework. So within those two financial hubs that you heard, DIFC and ADGM, you have so much being offered already. I don't want to go into it because you've heard it. But then you also have governmental bodies supporting this growth. And they are, for example, the Ministry of Artificial Intelligence, the Abu Dhabi Digital Authority, Smart Dubai. There's also a Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology. They all play a very strong supportive role. And this is extremely good partnership between government and the private sector. Another thing we find in the UAE is an increasing tech-savvy population, and that's a strong overseas presence. So the Emirati population is about, let's say, 11% of the population, and the remainder are people all over the world, and they are very much involved in economic activity. Now, digital payments have also, e-commerce, use of digital payments have also, really moved forward and the meteoric growth in that. BNPL usage is also exponentially growing. The other important takeaway that you must have picked up is it is a strategic location for access to capital. I mean, you heard from ADGM, there are strong linkages to the major, huge sovereign wealth funds and financial and investment authorities and investment bodies in Abu Dhabi. You've heard from DIFC, their ecosystem of a large number of private equity companies, venture capital companies, and so on and so forth. So this is, again, a very important factor for the growth of FinTech in the UAE. Right. So let me now move to our panel members. You've heard from Naja about their background. And if I might just add word on Prakash first. I've known Prakash for a few years. I consider him to be one of our poster boys in the FinTech sector. 2.5 years ago, when he first met me about his interest in the UAE, I was very, very positive that a person of his intelligence and ability do very well in the UAE. And over the past 2 years, what he's achieved is evidence for all of you of how, if you seriously look at the opportunities there and take hold of the opportunities and seize upon it, you can really grow it. And Prakash has done amazingly well, right? And very innovative in all the things he does, and one of the major players in Web3. Now, I've got to know Jackal recently, thanks to the introduction of SFA. And similarly, I'm highly impressed by Jackal. They are operating in Abu Dhabi Global Markets. They have highly sophisticated risk management systems based on AI, etc. And I can tell you one thing, in the FinTech sector, in the broad financial sector, risk management is a very important aspect of doing business. I don't have to explain to you why, you're all aware of it. So this is also an area that Jackal can share his views on. I want to now straight away move on to the panel discussion. And I'm going to pose some questions really which I'll address to both panelists. And both of them will have different perspectives, because operate in different, Prakash largely in Dubai, and Jackal largely in ADGM. So there are very interesting perspectives that they can share. And I must thank them both for being very spontaneous in agreeing to our invitation to be part of this sharing session. And that's what we always do. Whenever we have a workshop, and we have an itinerary, etc., we also have a sharing session with Singapore companies who are in the UAE, who are generous enough to share with us their experience so that you all can learn. Maybe you don't make the same mistake they may have made, and learn from how we can find an optimal strategy. So let me start off with the most basic question to both of you, starting with Jackal. What was your rationale to start your business of investing in the UAE? In your case, Abu Dhabi.
I think initially, frankly, it's opportunistic. We have some collaborations with local government in ADAA, Abu Dhabi Accountability Authority. And then we started to understand and look at the whole UAE market as well as the whole Gulf area. We find out that there's a huge potential for people whose solution can really help the society. So we then decide that, okay, let's find where we are going to be, putting our Middle East and North Africa hub. And then we're trying to find different locations and so on. We find out that UAE really attracts us because of the overall diversity that we see there. like it's actually very, very easy for expatriate to be like in UAE. I think they make it very, very easy for people to come. And then like the openness and the transparency in a lot of the policies is like unlike a lot of other places that we've seen, especially around the region. And like geographically, it's great as well. We radiate ourselves into like North Africa very easily as well. And then like we go to a lot of the other GCC countries from here. So I think like all these are pretty important for me, like in choosing good location, good headquarter for our business in Middle East and North Africa. And on top of that, I think the access to talents. So we have a lot of other talents from different part of the world because of different projects that we have. We might need to have French-speaking people for Western Africa and so on. And then I easily have talents from Paris that I can tap myself to that they say, hey, I would be more than happy to come and like station in UAE and help you guys on like this project and be part of your team and so on. So attracting talents both from Asia, from Europe, like is pretty easy. People are very happy about like what they've seen, what they've experienced with UAEs. So I think these are pretty important when we first decided. But of course, I think I like the vision. We probably will be talking about it through some of the later discussion. But I like the vision of like that I've seen from the country as well. So yeah, I think that's my answer so far.
Thank you, Jackal. I think you gave an extremely comprehensive answer. And the point you made about connectivity, I also want to stress, because of the strategic location of the UAE, it has got connectivity to really the whole world. And countries that are not easy to access, like Africa, you mentioned Africa, can be easily accessed from the UAE. Emirates Airlines, for example, travels all over the place, Etihad as well, Abu Dhabi. So that's another very important point. Talent, you mentioned, the availability to track talent from all over the world. That, you know, and you mentioned French speaking, you know, Francophone, West Africa. That's interesting. There's obviously talent there too that you can attract to your businesses. Now, thank you, Jackal. Prakash, you have now more or less relocated from what I see, spending a lot of time in Dubai. I'm sure your family misses you a lot in Singapore, but I can see how you've really made an impact on yourself. I mean, I didn't mention Vara just now, but Vara, with who you know very well, who we'll be meeting, which is Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority, is the first, I believe, virtual asset independent regulatory authority in the world. And it shows how ahead of the curve the country is in terms of really doing its utmost to promote the fintech sector. So, you know, you are a prolific speaker in various conferences. What is your take as to what made you really latch on to the opportunities in Dubai and even to some extent relocating yourself there?
Sure. Thank you very much for the question, Dr. Brian. I would say it would be the regulation, which is the main factor that actually encouraged me to start on that process. And working with VARA as a regulator has been a phenomenal experience. It's a highly consultative approach. They take a lot of time to understand our business, as well as to propose what would be the most ideal for us. It took us about 15 months to actually get our in-principle approval, and they've actually given us a full VASP license. And we started out actually applying for advisory license, but which eventually they actually advised us that actually the investment management license will actually be a bit better for us. And they worked with us to actually achieve that. I think in our space, in the digital asset space, we believe that this particular cycle is going to be where a lot of large corporates and a lot of institutional companies and players will actually get into the space. And this is where regulations is going to be very, very crucial. And I think this very openness to regulation And this innovation that VARA has shown us in the journey that we have taken has been amazing. And this is also now attracting a whole lot of my peers, whether it's here in Singapore or in Hong Kong, to actually work with us to leverage this license. We see ourselves kind of operating in a golden triangle, right? Where Singapore is our headquarters, our new brand, Aya, is headquartered in the UAE. And what we hope to do is to kind of facilitate transactions between both markets. And we're starting to see a flow of capital. We're definitely starting to see a flow of smart talent. And we feel that this is where collectively the entire ecosystem is going to grow. We're very, very early in its infancy, but this is where collaboration comes in. And this is that one spirit that we enjoy in the UAE. They're very, very open. We do spend a lot of time understanding each other's missions, understanding each other's business challenges, and they tend to find a way to actually kind of solve that, whether directly or by actually introducing us to a suitable partner. They never say no to us. Sometimes they'll say they'll come back to us, and they always do. And that is, that one support that we have gotten here in Singapore with the UAE embassy, as well as all the support that you have provided from the UAE Singapore Business Council, and all that on-ground support that we get, whether it's from VARA or DET, where they have dedicated, account managers that actually manage our needs, whether it is applying licenses or, for looking for office space. The DET actually made introductions, they facilitated that. And this is, the main reason why we have managed to enjoy, this rapid success. But we definitely see this as a foundation and a stepping stone to a lot of bigger things to come. And we're very thankful for all the support that we have received.
Prakash, the real credit goes to you because you saw the opportunity, and of course we could see you are a man of vision and dynamism, and we supported you. But you saw the opportunity, and you leveraged it. You took advantage of the opportunities, and the results speak for itself. Now, it's one of the reasons why when the delegation goes to the UAE, we're going to have, if we do not mind, Jekyll, you and Prakash, separate meetings with you. And again, we really appreciate your generosity in sharing your experience and giving, advice and sharing your challenges. And I'm going on to that point now. Challenges. When you go to a new market, obviously there are challenges. And just to make sure that people don't realize that everything's going to be just easy, everything will just fall on your lap. Maybe starting with you, Prakash, you can explain some of the challenges that you faced and how you overcame some of these challenges. That would be a nice learning experience as well on this panel.
Sure. So yeah, coming from Singapore, and being a young entrepreneur, very often we want to get instant results. We feel that just by traveling up to the UAE a couple of times, we hope to close business deals. We hope to close partnerships. But what I quickly realized is that you need to invest into the relationship. It took me a year of pretty much being there every 2 weeks to kind of establish what we hope to achieve in the market. It required me spending time to actually understand culturally how is it that we're actually going to be building a business. Clearly, it's a very non-transactional business environment. It is about the value that you can actually give before you actually receive in many folds. And that takes time, that takes perseverance. And that's something that I had to train myself as a founder. But once we understood how the operating system of the ecosystem works, and as we started facilitating more events, as we started hosting more discussions, whether it's a Majlis style, where it's an open forum, or whether it's closer dinners that we actually hosted, that's where we actually really started to feel the value, and we started seeing the results. So one key thing that I will encourage everyone is that you need to look long term and you need to invest time and money to make sure that you build these relationships. But what I can guarantee is that these relationships will last for a long time as long as you continue to deliver the promises that you make.
You know, Prakash, what you said will resonate, trust, in many of the attendees. Many of them are like you, small companies, startup, innovative companies who are looking at the new market in the UAE and the opportunities there. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It requires dedication, perseverance, hard work, relationship building, visibility. Now, you're a little bit different from Jackal. Jackal is a much bigger company. His parent is a huge group as well. And you know, it is always easier for a bigger company to enter into a market because they have this track record, credibility, and you know the presence. For a smaller company, it is a bit more of a challenge. And what you have shared with us, I think, should be an important takeaway for many of the companies who are now here in this audience, who are hopefully also looking at the UAE market. So the important point is, yes, there are opportunities for startups, people with good ideas, with visionary leadership, and you've demonstrated that. Thank you, Prakash. Now, Jackal, we would love to hear from you. Some of your own experiences in setting up, building, and the challenges you face in really achieving a significant presence in ADGM in the country.
Well, like I think this is very important. Like even though you say, hey, Jackal's company is a lot larger and so on, I still remember like 10 years ago, like when I have a small room of few people, like 9 persons starting up the company. Like right now we have more than 1,000 people in the whole group. But like I have started both in this startup and my previous startup, at least 10 different offices around the world. Like and I've done that in a lot of countries. And I gotta say, before I say challenges, I gotta say, I can say this very loudly. This is probably one of the least challenging countries in setting up something. Like I think I can like really relate it to it because I have a lot more challenges when I start up in a lot of other countries and so on. Like when I first started up in UAE, though, I think very similar to Prakash. I think the understanding and getting connected in the local business circles is actually, it takes time. You need to be really into it rather than just like coming in, getting out, coming in, getting out, and so on. You really need to be there, like be sincere, and then people know that you're here to stay. Okay, and really need to add value. I think like I really echo to the point that we need to be contributing to the society. So like I think that's something that it takes time. So those time and dedication is very important as well. Well, also like it will take time for us to understand some of the local customs, right? And then I get myself understanding all the local prayers time and like what time should I be asking for like meeting that is polite, and a lot of these things like you gradually learn yourself along the way. And then I think as a matter of fact, this is actually the most multicultural team that I have across the globe. Because like in my team, I have people from Kazakhstan, I have people from Luxembourg, I have people from France, I have people from China, Singapore, Malaysia. So it's so interesting that you are, before you know, you're managing really like a very, very multicultural team. I think that's something that I'm learning because we have a lot of different offices, but some of these offices are less diverse. And then like managing diversity is like very interesting lesson as well. And then I think, well, the one last thing, like when you talk about challenges is, I think weather, initially, I think it's quite a bit of challenge when I'm not getting used to it. But surprisingly, it took me a lot less than what I think I will, like to be really like what I have like in UAE in terms of weather. I can survive the 50 degrees and I really enjoy the 20 degrees, right? So I get used to it and then like start loving it. So I think those are some of the things that I have seen in terms of when I first started up. It's really quite easy already when compared to other countries.
Thank you, Jacqueline. And you're right, I fully agree with you. Even if you're an established company, you're going to a new market, you face similar challenges. And so I do agree. And I also like the concept about, being part of the community, what you referred to. And both you and I know Prakash believe in that. And I think that really makes a difference because people do appreciate a company that thinks in such a holistic manner. Now, Jekyll, you establish yourself there. You know the region. You know the country, of course. Where do you see the growth coming from for yourself?
Hmm.
For your
As a matter
business?
of fact, we actually have branched out like from UAE. We see a lot of opportunities around the Gulf, the GCC countries, especially when our focus is on like the overall financial solutions around what type of digital inclusion is required for people to be more digitally included, like in this new world of finance. And then all the fraud and all the compliances challenges that we've seen alongside like the whole evolutions. For example, we've seen a lot more telco frauds than ever. And then like these telecom frauds actually like there's technologies around it. Well, like generative AI, like ChatGPT, all these open AI, they actually help a lot on the bad guys, like have a lot of tools. We're trying to imitate and trying to social engineering like people's life and try to fake that like they're somebody else's friend and so on. And then we actually need to use technology to help them. So like we think this core help of how do we make this whole society more digitally included, more financially included, is a very, very important theme. And anywhere we go, I think the different countries really welcome us with both hands. So it's really up to us to say, hey, like where do I have the best test bed? And I think UAE is the best test bed for us to have. For example, we have all these interesting auditing requirements for all the state-owned companies. And then how do you make sure like there's no money laundering things among the CEOs of like the royalties and so on and so forth. Right? So there's a lot of very common problems that every one of the Gulf countries and African countries that we go around, a lot of them have very common problems. And if we test that in UAE and then replicate that to some of these other markets, I think that's the potential. And then the potential also lies in, I really think, in understanding the vision. Like we talk about the vision 2030, we talk about knowledge-based economy and so on. I think like we really need to understand what's behind all this. In particular, you talk about AI. I think UAE's aggression on building their own LLM Arabic version of large language models around AI and so on, I think it's like very, very impressive. I think it's going to lead and all these present a lot of opportunities for organization like mine to come in, like use our expertise that we have gathered and then modify it to local use and then really create something interesting and useful for the society. So I actually see a lot of needs for our type of technology around, and UAE will be my best hub. That would be my thoughts.
A very, very good answer, Jekyll. And you're in a sweet spot because cybersecurity, risk management is going to be very, very much in demand. So I'm highly optimistic that you will grow by leaps and bounds, not just in the UAE, of course, as you said, in the broader region. Thank you so much, Jekyll. Prakash, likewise, you explained your positioning in digital assets. Is an interesting growth sector. And what other sectors do you think you would recommend to our audience here that you see growth and opportunities because of the dynamism, in the dynamics rather, that are going on in the country, and generally speaking, in the global fintech sector, but particularly in the UAE.
Sure. I think the UAE is very, very open to innovation as long as there's a technology or a service that anyone is providing that's disrupting something that is existing, the status quo. I think the UAE is a great place, for a sandbox for innovation to actually take place. In our space, we see the UAE being the epicenter of this great financial distribution that's actually happening. We see the Middle East playing an important role supporting the global South with a lot of the crowdfunding requirements that are required in the impact and sustainability space. And we're definitely seeing capital flow from all around the world into the UAE. A lot of big names are setting up their family offices in Abu Dhabi. And this is where we feel the magic is going to happen. This is where innovation will get funded, but the impact of a lot of these technologies that get funded will be global. And that's where we actually need a platform like the UAE, where it's very, very culturally diverse, where it actually encourages innovation, especially in this age of super intelligence that we live in, with AI now being a key aspect of everything that we do in our business as well as our personal lives. Things are going to move very, very quickly. And this is where we actually need the right regulatory support, the right access to capital, as well as the right ecosystem to launch. There was a recent data that actually came out that about 30% of the people in the UAE actually own and hold a crypto asset, and that makes them the highest in the world. So there's no better place for us to launch a digital asset company. But having said that, it's also a great place for fintechs. It's a great place for climate tech companies as well as AI companies. So I would say as long as they are founders with a clear vision, with a will to actually work hard, and some technology that they can bring to the table, they will definitely find a way to succeed in the UAE.
Since you are sort of an expert in digital assets, and of course, you know about cryptos and NFTs, tell me what's actually going on in the UAE on DeFi, decentralized financing. Is there much activity already starting? Are there players who are active in this space?
For sure, I think it's a cycle, and we are in the beginning of the next bull wave, right? And this is where DeFi will come in with the right regulations. I think we'll see a lot more transparency. We'll see a lot of new players. The UAE has been very, very forward-looking from a stablecoins issuance perspective. They recently announced the guidelines, and again, stablecoins and DeFi, they play a very, very key role. What we see in this particular cycle is where a lot of institutional capital will now participate in the DeFi space, and that's definitely going to take place in the UAE because of all the right regulatory support that we're getting in that space. But I would say that at this point in time, we're definitely on an upswing. A lot of projects are moving there. A lot of projects are launching from the UAE, and this is where it's a perfect time for a lot of startups in the audience to consider setting up their regional headquarters in the UAE.
Okay, thank you, Prakash. There you are, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard. I mean, you've got to pay money to listen to such people, sharing their experience with you, and you've got it FOC. And I want to thank you both. Now, I'm looking at the chat box. I don't see any questions. Anybody got any questions? Am I missing anything, Najat, in the chat box?
No questions so far, but if anyone would like to add any questions, now would be the perfect time. So maybe we'll just give them a few seconds.
Are sort of reluctant to type a question and you want to raise your hand through the icon in the Zoom, you can do that too. Because, I'm open to somebody flagging a hand and asking a question directly. Anybody? No? Ruben,
none so far.
I'm sure. Ruben, you have a question, I'm sure.
No, I don't have any question. In fact, I do have a lot of more like encouragement, So maybe just want to take this chance to I'm mindful of time, and I know that we would have overrun our program, but I just want to call out again to all of our audience here today. UAE is a fantastic place to look at if you already have thoughts about expanding into the market. And I can see that even just from Singapore itself, there's a lot of support. For example, through UAE Singapore Business Council, whom we are collaborating with for this trip. And within a short 90 minutes, you already have a very quick sense from both the DIFC, from ADGM, from our ambassador, and all the way to a couple of successful companies who have landed there, who have already given you very good insights. So I think it is really in with all this that you hardly can find many markets out there that you can really straight away get this kind of support from Singapore. So I think this is a good chance for you to review this.
Thank you.
I just want to end off with that note that we
Very,
do encourage,
very
encourage.
wise comments, Ruben, and I hope your members and others who are participating in this will sort of take advantage of this opportunity to join us in this delegation. I want to conclude, therefore, by first thanking profusely our two panelists for being so educational in their comments, their feedback, and of course being very generous in sharing their experiences with all of us. And that's something that we definitely appreciate. And thank you for being an attentive audience. And I would like to now pass back the baton to Najat, our MC. Over to you, Najat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brian, Jackal, and Prakash. I believe we do have one question actually that's just come up. So we have two questions. So we can just address these two questions and then we'll close it if that's possible.
Okay, I can't see in the chat box. Wendy, can you read out the question? The first one first.
Sure, will do. So the first question will be, how as startups can we request for funding from the Middle East for expansion? Maybe anyone
Okay, sorry, I saw that. How as startups we can request for funding from the Middle East? I can answer that question, okay? Because this is a question I often get asked. Often. A very, very pertinent question. The first thing I say to them is you must have a very good business case. You must have a good story to tell. The second thing is, if you do not have a presence in the UAE, for you to get funding for a Singapore entity by itself is going to be hard. So you must be serious about going to the UAE, showing value-added activity in the UAE, and they will support you. You have a good product, you have a good story to tell, and you can show that you have good leadership, people who are passionate and very, very passionate and highly motivated what they're doing. Yeah, I open an office there. I'm not saying you relocate from Singapore, don't get me wrong. Singapore should always be your holding company, your head office. Yeah, but if you want to get funding from the UAE, from the various institutional and other funds there, you need to have a presence there and show commitment. And that means not just a presence, you must show that you're also adding value in the country. Okay, so that's the answer to that question. Now, what is the next question?
Brian, if you allow me just one thing to add up on what you just said.
Sure.
I'm sorry for cutting.
No, please.
Like, yeah, when we tell people coming who are tending to come to Abu Dhabi, like I'm from ADGM, so I'm talking from a regulator perspective. But what we do is other than what I showed all the audience in the presentation, we work alongside with Hub 71.
Yes.
Hub 71 is an arm under Mubadala.
Yes.
So Hub 71 is an entity that has like I think they have like 2 cohorts every year. And what they do is, because we are trying to align together and build the ecosystem of these tech startups. So the incentivizations comes from Hub 71. And what they give, if any tech startup, whether it's a FinTech, MedTech, whatever, anything related to tech startups, they will give them, if they get chosen, especially something that's in a DeFi space, something new, they will get a license for 2 years, free office space, medical insurance, and I think they get around, I'm not sure about the incentives they give, but I think it's around 600K, 600,000, I mean, which is something I always tell my clients, explore when you are getting the license from ADGM and be in contact with Hub 71. And Hub 71 is something we do the introduction to. So it's worth trying.
Khalifa, first of all, your comments are very relevant, and I fully agree with you. Hub 71 is very well known to us. Whenever we bring a delegation in the tech scene to the UAE, and we visit Abu Dhabi, of course, and we also visit Dubai and Sharjah, we always introduce them to Hub 71, always. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to set up in Abu Dhabi, a startup, the amount Hub 71 is the best, location to have if you're a startup, because as what Khalifa said, the support you get is tremendous. So of course you get the support also in Dubai, but since you mentioned Hub 71, you will notice in our program, Khalifa, we have included Hub 71 as well as important visitation in for our delegation. You're very right. I'm a great fan of Hub 71. I know the people there, and we brought delegations there. Whenever we go to the UAE, especially in tech, we bring them to Hub 71 too. Thank you for your comments, Khalifa. Now, the other question is about seed funding. Same thing. The question was any suggestions on getting access to seed funding? The same answer to the earlier question about funding from Middle East for expansion is relevant. My answer is relevant to that too. And I think we come to the close of our panel discussion. I don't want to extend beyond our time allocated. I'm going to pass you back to our MC, who's doing a good job, a great job actually. Najat, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brian. We hope this webinar has been beneficial to everyone here. We'd like as many of you to participate in our delegation to the UAE. So please register by scanning the QR code that I will be flashing on the screen again over here.
And don't forget the photo opportunity. You want to do a photo of all the participants.
Yes, we've already taken some photos earlier at the beginning. But yeah, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me and Gwen from SFA. Let me see where this button is.
I think when you took the photo, Najat, there were not so many people, so it's good to do one.
Yeah,
finale.
I think no one has their screen showing. So we've managed to take some photos earlier at the beginning of the webinar, but I believe that's all we have time for today So thank you so much to Your Excellency Jamal Al-Suwaidi for your and the Embassy's support, to Ruben and the SFA team for collaborating with the UAE SBC on this project, speakers and panelists, and to our attendees for joining us on this webinar. Thank you again and have a good day, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.